Well, absolutely. Listen, I've been asked to speak to a construction company. I've spoken to a few where I talk to the workers and say, don't panic. This is clearly a political ploy by DeSantis to try to out-Trump Trump. And there's a lot of holes in this law. It's, I think, actually illegal. It should be overturned at some point. And it's like Stephen said, it goes back. I mean, you're already here. There are ways to get around this. But reality is, if I'm undocumented, because there's no illegal human being, it's immoral that a person would call somebody illegal for trying to feed their family. There's no illegal person. It's not even a crime. If you commit a crime in this state or in this country, you're afforded an attorney. In immigration, you're not, because it's a civil issue. It's not a crime. So they dehumanize people by calling them illegal so you can step on them, because these are good Christians that are acting evil. So what I would do if I was undocumented, I'd probably move from the state. There are 15 states that provide driver's licenses for undocumented people. If you think about it, the state is responsible for driver's license and make sure there's insurance, et cetera, not immigration. This governor has gone way over and overreaching his boundaries. And when he's president, if he becomes president, and God forbid, then maybe he can bring some of these fascist ideology into play. But until then, you run the state of Florida, follow state law, and stay in your lane, if you will, because that's a federal issue. This is Congress's responsibility, not even Biden's.
CJ, the governor says he's passing all this legislation this year and the previous year because the federal government isn't doing its job. And you see all these people coming to the southern border, and since President Biden isn't acting on it, he's got to do something.
Well, it's not his prerogative. It's the federal government's job. I would say the Republicans in Congress are failing miserably. If you remember, our United States Senator from Florida tried to do this and do immigration reform when he was first elected. They tell him to stand down. The last time Congress worked on immigration was 1986 when Reagan was president. We need Congress to step in and do their job. The president is not in control of this. Congress is. The Republicans are stopping this, in my opinion, because if we fix immigration reform, which is not open the borders, fix the problem, what will they have to argue when they run for office? This is something that both parties need to work on and fix immediately, and it's Congress that has the responsibility, not the president. Even if DeSantis is elected as president, he has to have a Congress that will actually pass the laws, and if he doesn't, nothing will change.
One thing to add, and I do think that I was just in D.C. A couple of weeks ago, and the Republicans did pass an immigration bill that secured the border, increased visas, sent it to the Senate, but you're right, Congress has to solve this problem. This is a federal issue. We've been going to Washington for the last decade talking about guest worker programs, pathways to work in this country, and it hasn't happened. It's a federal issue. This law is a response to the lack of the federal regulations in immigration.
I just want to show what Title 42, they were all worried about it ending. It's been, immigration is going down since this Title 42 ended, and it's because Biden is trying something. It's like a prospect of giving a lawful entry. For example, if you are a resident of the United States and you live in Colombia, you can now apply to have people come in. Before that was not allowed, okay? So now it gives more avenues for people to do this correctly, and so that they don't have to come to the border. And by the way, most of the people coming in the border are turning themselves in and saying political asylum. That's not an illegal, undocumented person. That's a person now that needs to be processed. But what's happening, I know personally people who are 7, 8, 10 years waiting for the political asylum trial. I've represented people in political asylum trials. They should be done immediately, very quickly, and if they don't qualify, they should be sent home. But no, Congress has not funded immigration. If we would do the things correctly, we wouldn't have this problem. But then I guess, people wouldn't come out and vote and, hate Latinos. I don't know. It's the only logical explanation for not movement by Congress. My wife is Colombian. I don't have my wife here or the children. I've been waiting years. I'm an officer of the court. I practice in federal court. I practice in Minnesota and Florida. And I cannot even speak to an immigration person over my family. It is the most hell to live through. So be it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. For you people that think it's a joke or they should stand in line, you stand in line, and then we'll talk about it. The system is broken. It needs immediate action by Congress, even if you're doing it what they say is the correct way.
CJ, what do you think the solutions might be?
Oh, there's a great deal of it. First, you need Congress to work. They just need to sit down with all parties. Here in Florida, there's no checks and balances, and that's what really disturbs me. There's all Republican in charge. Now, I'm not saying all Republicans are bad, because the Dems, when they would have, I believe in checks and balances. Government is not supposed to be that efficient. It's supposed to be fair, and I think what has been said here today is correct. Law was pushed through without in consulting people, and it's a government overreach. It's abuse of state power. It instills fear in immigrant community, and what we need is Congress to act. Then, as Steve had said, the state doesn't feel like they have to do anything. Congress needs to do. This is on the Congress of the United States and the people that in Congress that will not act to work on immigration reform. There are a lot of things that can be done, but remember this: there are 10 million Americans without employment, jobs available in this country. 2.7, I think, % of the Florida unemployment rate. If we pass immigration reform, inflation will come down, our pocketbooks would be better, everything will be better in this country, and we'll be back on track.
But CJ, it's easy to say Congress should do something. But the governor says, look, Congress hasn't done anything, so he's got to step in and do something.
He likes that because he's running for president of the United States, and there's nobody to thwart him. He needs a law. And we really, if we look at this law that's passed, there's a lot of Swiss cheese. There's a lot of holes here that will keep people here, because he knows if he really stops people from working, there goes a multi-billion-dollar agricultural industry. There goes the construction industry. If you know how to manage the law, you're not going to lose people. But he's grandstanding for national politics. His party in Congress, and he was a congressman, he did nothing, absolutely nothing to fix immigration. It's Congress's responsibility, and that's the problem. And it falls squarely, unfortunately, at the moment on the Republican Party to make these changes.